Space, the final frontier. No, actually, it's another notebook. Ran out of good paper. I'm here to talk about my old windlass rapier. Now, this model of rapier has been in the catalog at Museum Replicas on and off for decades. This particular one was bought in 1994. It's pretty thick, as you can tell, near the base, but the entire blade, as you might be able to see, is also fairly thick and narrow, like rapiers often are. So when you get to here, near the tip, where you'd actually cut with, we're talking, about half an inch width, with pretty thick blades. So some people say rapiers were definitely used for cutting, some people say not. I think the debate comes from the side sword, or what we call a side sword now, transitioning to rapiers, what we probably consider true rapiers, transitioning to later small swords. Without a doubt, side swords were cut thrust swords. Rapiers, some by the end, towards the latter period, certainly were probably entirely thrust centric. Some towards the beginning, obviously in some of the manuals, some of the things that are listed as manual rapiers, not manuals. Some things listed as rapiers were certainly used for cuts in their manuals. So it probably depends on school time period, I think. But I thought, would my rapier be able to cut if I tried to sharpen it? Given the very steep edge angle, it's a diamond, really thick. Obviously intended primarily for the thrust. But the other day, I tried to put an edge on it, and found a piece of noodle here on the floor. It's fairly successful. Watch my thumb here, but you can see that cuts. A little bit of effort, not too bad, but it is a fairly acute edge. Ooh, I'm trying to find some paper I haven't cut yet. I take the paper to the edge. See, it cuts just fine. Now, turn over so you can see I'm cutting with the false edge, and again we will see that cuts just fine. So I got a decent edge on there despite being a very steep edge bevel. So let's see what happened. Okay, here we have one piece of noodle on my ad hoc sword cutting stand. Here we have the rapier, also my light. Okay, so get out of frame here and try to cut through this. Alright, let's move this a little bit. See if I do anything to this of any sort. I don't know how well this will do, and a little nervous to swing this thing indoors. It's very long, but we shall find out. We shall find out. Well, didn't do great, but it's a rapier. I wasn't expecting spectacular, but it did manage to cut in and then kind of rip a bit. And I guess once it started cutting, you see it looks like it cut a bit back this way when it came in and it folded and was cut. So it's about like that. But it did alright for the type of blade it is. But apparently, like I've shown, my rapier with a very narrow blade and thick could do some damage. Cut to the wrist, arm area, tendons on the back of the wrist, forehead, would be enough to cut. It wouldn't necessarily incapacitate, but it would certainly distract, or possibly, if you cut a tendon or a major artery, certainly stop a fight. So it is not a great cutter, not designed to be, but it does much better than I thought it would. Last couple things about the rapier. When my friend bought it, he did not get a scabbard. Windlass often includes scabbards, and for some reason he didn't get one. So to house the blade, I've always housed it in this. It's actually just a piece of PVC pipe. They're kind of painted to match, and once you get it in there, it actually fits the guard with the shape pretty nicely. So at a glance, it looks okay. Keeps the blade safe. Mostly stays in my closet, no problem. I did want to show the mangoche that I have to match it. Partly because it took me probably about 10 years to actually get this dagger together. Initially, I tried to get a matching dagger. They had stopped selling it. I bought a kit for a Arkansas toothpick that I believe was wider here, but kind of tapered, about the same length. A pommel I got for it that was a half-globe fluted pommel. But I didn't have a handle or a guard that matched at all. And over the years of going to museum replicas clearance sale. I eventually found a pommel, and then I eventually found this guard with this grip and this blade on a different dagger. So over 10 years, I finally assembled what is essentially the dagger they sold with it. And it too, I have sharpened. And we can see, oh, hang on. So that's sharp on that side and sharp on that side. So it's a nice dagger, and even though its blade is also fairly narrow as far as a cutting edge might be, thrusts well and does a decent job cutting. But again, it's not designed to be a heavy cutting blade, so there's advantage in the thrust for that. Anyway. This is a picture of a movie I'd really like to see. Xena, Wonder Woman, and She-Ra. I think that would kick ass. Well, anyway, probably never happen. Hilson, good night.